Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Daniel. How you doing?
Doing good. How about yourself?
All right, all right, all right. This phone going probably so for my kids' school.
No, I did get the program to print, but
Did they print right?
yeah, that's what I'm saying. But hey, I got it to print. That's what I want
Uh-huh.
to see, you know.
And see, that was
So
saying you're taking it in stages because if you
right,
try,
that's what I'm doing.
yeah, that whole thing, man, it'll give you headaches.
Right. I mean, I worked on it all day yesterday, but I was trying to take it bit by bit, bit
Right,
by bit, like take one function at a time,
right,
print
right,
each
right,
each
right.
function. But
Correct.
when I'm printing it, I have the input file and it's outputting the numbers and the name
Okay.
and the score and all that. I got all that. But at the end of the numbers, it's giving me like a negative 85893460.
Okay.
Like a bunch of
And you're trying to print at that array out?
yeah, and I'm trying to put that array out. The two
Uh,
dimensional.
apparently what's happening either with that what you're referencing is not correct. Let me ask you this, and when I'll go over that, when you actually in your calculation of well, you doing the calculation function.
I haven't done that one yet. No.
Oh, so that's why you don't have a the average, right?
Right.
Right.
So is the average is outputting that number?
Should be. That should be what it is because you got your name, your four numbers, and four
Right.
score, and then your average.
But how is the average like outputting on the first line?
On the very, what you mean on the first line?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's coming after it's like on the very first line. Like I have the average. I'm on the even, so I have the
So you
average at the
should,
bottom.
right. So, give me
I
an
don't know why.
example.
It's like it's giving me the same number. It doesn't start until it gets the average, like you said. But for some reason, it's going to the right and then all the way up that right side.
So you print a name, four scores, average. Name, four score, average. That's what it's doing
Right, right,
because of the way you thinking, because of your logic. Now, let me give you an example. Remember, I told you, being that you're doing the one with columns, you have to. There's a trick you have to do, but at the same time, what I said, your output logic will be different. Give you an
right,
example. I'm going to print name 1, 2, 3, 4, right?
right,
Name 1, 2, 3, 4. Name 1, 2, 3, 4. All or well, I'm saying four, but you're gonna have I think five or six scores. Once you print out all the names and the scores, then
right,
at the bottom, the last line, you're gonna have for the average, you're gonna have a loop that's gonna print average, average sub zero, sub one, sub two, sub three, going across. You understand?
right,
But what you're doing, you printing it all when you print out the name. You can't print your program's gonna print the column average. So you gotta print out all the input data, and then then when you print the last line, you're gonna print average, and then under that first column, whatever the average
right.
over, the next average over, the next average over, the next average.
Gotcha.
Right. So it's gonna
Yeah,
be
I can share my screen too if you want to take a
right,
look.
cause somebody else, Nicholas Messer. Let me show you something. I did one. It's not exactly like the ones you have to do, but rather than being 15 by 5, it's 5 by 4. You know, so you have
Right,
to pay attention and understand what's going on. I didn't want to just give you the program, right?
Right, yeah, exactly.
All
You
right,
want to
so
know the
let me,
logic behind it.
huh?
You want us to know the logic behind it.
Right, correct. So let me share my screen.
That's the
Uh,
only reason why I spent so much time on it. It's not because like anybody can look up on the internet and figure it out, but it's like you want to
just
do it yourself in
understand
the
it.
program.
Right, there you go.
It's
Because
hard.
once you understand, like, okay, all right, I could do this and I could do any other two-dimensional whatever.
Right, right.
Right. That's right. So let's look at this logic here. Now, in this is a program. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna run it. I'm gonna show you what I did. I'll just run it. All right. But you're gonna have to kind of understand what I did. All right. So I'm gonna run it. So I created the program last night. Okay. Header file, you're gonna have to have your header file, right? You don't have that, you don't have to do this in the program because you're doing either the student average or the class average, correct? You don't have to have this option in there. I just put it in there so the people who have the even, they can see what their output is, and the ones who have the odd, they can see it. So if I choose one, all right, that's the student average. That output would have the name, the scores, average. Name, the scores, average, right? So I hit one, and look, name, score one, score two, score three, score four, average. So what? Name, score, average. Which that average is incorrect. I wonder what I did wrong. How did I do this wrong?
Also, the programming game section had 5 scores too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
yeah.
I just did
It's just a little
four.
bit different. Yeah.
Right. I
Also,
did.
at the bottom of Sam right there had that negative number as well.
Yeah, that negative number.
Yeah.
Right. So, so look what happened when I did the calculate. So the calculate for the students, there are 4 columns, right? Because, well, let me show you at the top. It's a constant. It's 4, which is going to be one of my size declarators for my
Column.
column,
Right.
right? So what happened is I pass the row value when I call the calculate, student calculate average. And then I pass the row. All right. So go here. All right, student count. Um, right, student count. So what happens here, okay, I pass the score, I'm passing the average function, all right,
Right.
and then I'm passing the row. So in here, for x equals 0, which is 5, all right, I'm setting total equal to 0. Okay, so that's good. And then I'm doing y from 0 to 4. So from 0 to 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm getting this total. All right. Once I get the total, I'm taking the total and dividing by 4. And that should give me average, AVG sub X, which should be placed in average. All right. Now, average should be changing. What did I pass for that one? I passed STU AVG. Why, now I'm wondering why I'm not getting the right score. All right. And so in my put, I'm passing, well, STU AVG. So in my put function, I'm passing the name, because notice I didn't have to pass the name in the calc because the name is not being calculated. So I'm passing the name, the scores, and the student average, all right, and then the row. So let's see how I printed this, if I printed it right. Put, so I'm printing uh, my heading, okay? Then I move into my for loop and then my nested for loop. So the first thing, I did a for loop for the number of rows, and then I printed out the first row, the name in the first row here in M, name sub X. Then I fell into the loop, okay? I fell into the loop, and now I'm printing out score sub 0 sub 1, 0 sub 0, 0 sub 1, 0 sub 2, 0 sub 3. All right. and kicking
Yeah.
out. Yeah. And then I should be printing out average, all right, which is this AVG sub X, which should be the first average, which is X. X is still 0. All right. So I'm wondering what happened. I have something. Let's
Last
see.
time we saw that, it was because the address itself was being printed, not the.
Right, but like what I'm saying, I'm passing it here. You know what I'm saying? That's why I'm confused. Uh, over up here, I have put. I'm passing a string array, passing a two-dimensional array, which is the scores, and I'm passing an int array, and then an int. So in my and then I have student average here. All right, which is the row, which is, oh, that's right. No, right, because I'm gonna have 5 averages.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, in my call, I have for my calculate. If I go back up here, I have well, let's go back to the get. Well, no, was it the get? That was the put. All right. So now in the put, the first put, let's see, I have my name, which is a string, my score, which is a two-dimensional array, average, which is event, and then a row, which is event. And so it should be calculating it. So, and what I could do here, I could do something like this. I could print out something like, and that's just to try to check to see what's happening. And I'll print out X just to see what X is. Oh, I did this double. But I'll go back into the program. And all right, so let's see if our address is, and this just a debugging tactic. That's all this is. Did it run? Okay. So I'll put 1. All right. So it is printing out X sub 0, X sub 1, sub 2, sub 3, and sub 4. So this would be correct. So 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right. So that value is correct. So Y for average, like you say, this one is not referencing a
Doesn't
value.
that mean that there wouldn't be a fourth actual value that's being input into it?
Right.
That's what happened last time. Was like the fourth value was
Not being
referenced, but not actually there.
Right. And if you look though, if I go to my input file, this would be my in data file. And this is the data. Okay. So could do that, but that may give me another error. Okay. No, that won't. This won't. Let's see, close this. And it's still, for whatever reason, and we'll look at it. We'll look at that, and then we'll look at the logic. But still, my see, the first one I intentionally put in 100s to see if my average was calculating. Yeah, it was working last night, so I don't know what's going on now. But I'll look at it. It's closed. Go back to source. All right. So let's look at what we did to start the program. I have a header file. Notice in my header file, I'm loading iostream, fstream, because when I load the file, fstream is going to allow me to read in my data file. I loaded string so that I can input the name from the data file. And I did IOMAN IP so I can control, if you remember from 193, that allows you to control your column widths and also your decimal places and whatnot. All right, so that I did that just to do the columns, so I could do set W and have everything lined up. So, and this just said with the header information. I didn't put in the information. All right. So now, using namespace, I have to actually define my input file object. Then I created these constants for my row and my column. This is gonna tell me how many rows I'm gonna have in my two-dimensional array. Okay, row and my columns. All right. So this is a 5x4. Then what? And you won't have this many functions. I have a get function. All right. You're gonna have a calc function, and you're gonna have a put function. All right. I just have two calc functions and two put functions because one's gonna calculate the student average and then print the student average with the output, and then the other one gonna calculate the class average and then print out the class average. So that's the only reason you see this up here, this many functions. So here we have our main function. Here we calling our header file that's going to load those libraries, and also well, no, not libraries. They're going to allow me to pull in the information, which is my name, course name, etc. And this choice here, that's just because I created a menu. And in this menu, if you choose one, you're doing the student average. You choose two, you're doing the class average. You choose three, you're exiting the program. So that you don't have to worry about that. The program is not designed or was required to do a menu because you're just doing one. All right. Now I have name as a string, and its array size of the rows, because what, you're gonna have a name on each row, so you need to have that many name elements. Then I have a scores an array that's gonna be the number of rows and then the number of columns. So that's why we have this two-dimensional array defined. Then we're gonna have a student average, and we're gonna have to have 5 student averages because we have 5 names, right? A name on each row. And then we got a class average, but our class average is gonna only be 4 elements because we only have 4. Well, in this program, 4 scores. But in your program, you're gonna have 5, right? And names, you're gonna have going across, you're gonna have 15. Now, so to get the data, I need to get all my data. And looking back here, my input file, I have name 1, 2, 3, 4. Name 1, 2, 3, 4. This needs to be consistent, or you will run into issues. All right, run into all type issues. If I skip like say this score here, then it'll try to read this as a number, this as a char, number, char. So now your data all screwed up. So you need to make sure that your data is set consistent. All right. Now, okay. So, where am I? Oh, so we're gonna get the name. Okay, it's gonna get the first name. Where am I? Should have put it name, and then it's gonna get the score. That's all we getting. We don't have average in our data file. Average is something that's computed. So name, scores, 1, 2, 3, 4. Name, scores. So if we're doing that, then our logic gonna have to reflect that. So if we look here, we're gonna have where's our get? Our get, we passing names, we passing scores, and we passing row. All right. So here we go to our get function. Simple get function, but it's doing a whole lot. All right. So what I did was I'm defining my get function. I'm passing my name, okay, which is a string, and all those, you got to remember, class, this stuff has to be in the proper order. This is name, which is a string. Scores, which is an int array, 2-dimensional. Row, which is a int. So when I go down here, when I'm doing my get function, string of an array, int with 2-dimensional, and then int, Okay, so it has to match. Otherwise, you're gonna get some kind of, I'm gonna say, link error because it can't link that object that argument with the calling function. All right. So in here, I did the file. I'm opening my data file. So I'm opening input.dat. All right. So I open up input.dat so I can what? Read my data. So look, remember I told you when you're dealing with a two-dimensional array, normally you're using a nested loop. So the outer part of the loop when you're reading would be the number of columns. So here we're going from 0 to row. Well, not column, scratch that. Number of rows. The outer loop would be the rows. All right. So you're going from
second loop you'll have so that way that the second loop you'll have your row and then your column, your X and your Y.
Say that again now.
I'm saying so that way in your second loop you'll have your rows and your columns, the X and the Y.
Right, correct, right. See, because once you're here, but notice what happened though. I have my first loop, right? It's going from 0 to 5, correct?
Right.
But before I fall into my nested loop, I need to do what?
Give the names.
Right. Yeah. I need to get name because name is of just what? A single dimension, one dimension. So while X is still 0, I'm going to grab name. Then I'm going to fall in the loop. X is still 0. Then I'm going to get 0 sub 0. Then 0 sub 1, 0 sub 2, 0 sub 3, 0 sub 4. Then it kicks out and it goes back to the outer loop. X becomes 1, but then it falls back. Then it reads in what? Name sub 1.
Right.
You got me? And then it goes.
This loop, it goes 1 sub 0.
Right. So you understand, you got to understand that because that's the most of the logic of the program, right? So that's what's happening here. X would stay constant and Y would keep incrementing. And that's how you're reading going across, okay? So I would say that could be a challenge, getting your data file written correctly, making sure you can access that data file being in the right location for the application, and then writing the logic to read in that data and write that data out. Because you don't have to write a function to write it out with the calculations. You want to make sure hey, I'm reading it in right and I'm writing it out right. So, and you're like, okay, I got that port. At least I know it's reading in the data. All right. Yeah. And then you can remove those statements and then start on your next step. All right. So this is the end.
Half the day yesterday, I had the whole problem with input file because they couldn't.
Right. You see what I'm saying? But if you'd have wrote the whole entire program and you'd have got that error plus 5 or 10 others, then what? You wouldn't have been just focusing on that. You'd have been trying to change everything. And if you'd have changed something at the bottom, which caused something else, and then now you got it right, but then changed something else, which caused it to be wrong. You know what I'm saying? So if you get it right in stages, you know, hey, I got this right. Now I can move on to the next stage. All right.
Still get that negative number though. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, that's because it's referencing a value that's not there. Right. So that's what that is. It's kind of like it's not giving you a value. It's giving you the address. Okay. It's giving you right, because that's what arrays are. I don't know
where the address is coming from. I have to go through it and just.
No, remember when we first talked about arrays? I think we said what array the first address or the first element of the array is its address.
Right.
And depending on the data type, a compiler knows that okay, the starting address is here. If it's an int, the next element would be what? 4 bytes or over.
Right.
So all the computer does is add 4 bytes, and now I'm at the next element. So it doesn't worry about, okay, what's there. It says, okay, I know I moved over 4 bytes. Now give me the value in those 4 bytes. And like I say, if nothing there, then you'll get those that reference of an address. Okay? So, but still need to figure that out as to why it's doing that on this one. It could be that I'll stop this soon. All right. So now, so that's the get function. So hopefully everybody program gonna do this. Everybody program gonna read the name, then read all the schools. Read the name, read all the schools. Read the name, read all the schools.
The program though, it's set to initialize the names.
I can't hear you.
In the first program,
Yeah.
to read in the numbers and initialize them.
Oh yeah. Oh well. Okay. Well, I did it different. Yeah. Well, you can't now to initialize the names. I'm gonna just show you. If you had to initialize the names, and that's how the program was, all you'd have to do is this equals, right? Equals, and then you'll put not that, and then in double quotes, whatever, Bill, yep, comma, yeah, double quote the next name. So that way you'd have the 15 names. So that way you're not reading them in, but you're seeing how you can initialize the array or you can read. So, well, and if that's the case, you can pretty much disregard this little logic here where you're doing this here. All right. Right. So, but this would be how you would do it if you was reading it in from the data file. All right. So you just have a loop and an inner loop and reading in the numbers because the names are already what? Initialized. All right. Which is a kind of dinosaur way where you initialize it because if you're reading from the data file, you want the names to match from what you're reading.
Yeah,
but how?
It's way faster too.
Right. Okay. So now we read in the data. Once you're reading the data, here we come here, go back to our main. Now, where we at? Now this is my little thing here, but say student average, all right? That's the people who doing the student average. So let me, I'm gonna just debug it one more time, and this time I'm gonna do 2. It's gonna run. All right, I'll do the 2. All right, so there's something going on. So here, look the class average, and that one's working correctly. So the class average, look, not class, yeah, not class, for the class, for everybody in the class. Here you got a 100, 90, 100, 88, 93. Here you got 100, 100, 100, 100, 100. Okay, that's a 100. So here you got a 100, whatever. So these averages look like they calculated correctly. You understand? So, but if you understand what happened, the first option gives you an average of each student. Okay? This option gives you the average of the class for each test score. All right. And Mr. Gaddis, you remember you were saying that your averages are printing out here, correct? So
right,
what?
That's at the bottom right there.
Right. What happens is you got to print out.
Printing all the way up to line 1, adjacent to Dan and all that.
Right. You talking about here?
Right.
So what happens is look at your see out. Your see out should print name and then print the 5 scores. They can do name 5 scores, name 5 scores. Once you complete the output, then you should have a loop that should print, you print out the word average, then fall in a loop 5 times that's gonna print the score average sub 0, score average sub 1, score average sub 2, so score average sub 3, and in your case, score average sub 4. But you got what I'm saying?
Yeah, right. But to print out that you would have to do a loop inside of a loop, right? A for loop inside of a for loop. Print that out.
To print out what? This?
Score and the students. So I'm saying the students, you would get your index, right? Your rows, and then you would loop it. We'll put a for loop inside that for loop.
Right, to print just the scores though.
Right.
Not not the average.
Right, not the average. But
right.
See, I deleted the average, and I'm still getting those negative numbers. So I don't know where they're coming from.
Okay, yeah, we'll have to look at that one. All right. So
I did post a picture in chat if you want to take a look at it later after.
Okay. Right. All right. Oh, we can look at it on the screen now. So let's go still back over the first one. So if we choose one, we're doing the student average as the one with the name or the each student have an average. So we calling out STU Cal DS, and we passing score, we passing student average, and we passing row. And remember, two-dimensional, one-dimensional, a simple int. Okay, and normally when you look at this two-dimensional, if you look at that with that little pop-up, one-dimensional, and then just an int. And when you go back up to your function, you should see something that's similar. Got to be two-dimensional of int, one-dimensional, you understand? And then an int. It has to be the same. All right. So now, and then, did I go to the right? Yeah. So now, student cap. So here we are, two-dimensional, right? Well, that was just a whole, okay. Two-dimensional here, one-dimensional, and that's not showing, which we see it here, and then an int. So we know we passing the score into here, okay? The score gonna be rows and columns. Here we passing an average function. The average function was gonna have the number of rows. All right. So let's see if I did that. Yeah, well, right. Average. Let's see which average I passed, and that might be an issue too. So when I pass this student average, it should be rows, which rows is 5. All right. So that is correct. So student. All right. So now int total. Now, I declared total, all right? Now, why would I set total equal to 0 here? Anybody?
So it's initialized initially, so you have a base number to go with. So if you know that the loop's working or it's not.
A little bit more. Look, I'm using it here in this formula, and they say it's supposed to be right. Every time I do an average, my total should be what? Before I start?
0.
Right. So you understand? So I'm setting it to 0 before I start and fall in this loop and what? Add up all of these. So if I start at 0 for the first one, then it add them all up. They calculate my average. Go back out. All right. Right. When X is 1, set total back to 0. And then we're doing start with Y. So 1, 1 sub 0, 1 sub 1. So you're adding all those together, but total started with 0. And then you're dividing that total by yeah, that's right, by the number of columns. That's right. And then you get your average. Is it columns? Yep, that's right. Because see, you take a total of what? The number of scores. So, and see, that's why you have to kind of understand the program. And this is right, but yep, this is rows. Column.
I think I just figured it out too. I think I got my rows and columns
confused.
On score, yeah.
Right.
There's 5 rows of scores and 15 columns.
Correct. No. Yeah. You're talking about for your output? Yes.
Right. From output. Right.
Yeah. So I think
when I input that, it should be 5 rows, right? It should be
right.
Let's say, for example, score underscore DG brackets 5 close brackets open brackets 15 close brackets.
Wait. When you're doing what now?
Doing score.
When you're outputting it?
Right.
No. Well, no.
Because there should be 5 rows, right?
Right. But you should only have a one-dimensional array for your average. Because it's just 1, 0, 1,
right.
2, 3, 4.
I'm talking about the score, though. I'm talking about the score one.
Your scores are still the same. Yeah, oh yeah, I see what you're saying. But you're not, I'm gonna show you, we'll get to that one. But you're not manipulating anything. But logically in your head and in your program there, that you're right. You're right. And yeah, you're right.
This gets pretty confusing.
Correct. Right. So I think I see what I thought was my issue, but I'll go back and check this column. It recognized this, but I'll see. But what I'll do, we'll do some checking to see exactly what's going on, and I'll show you just some little debugging techniques. So that's good. But like I say, this the actual calculate formula for the student. And then once we calculate the average, then we executing the here we go, the put underscore DS, which we pass in everything that we have in our program, our name, our score, our student average, and the row. So if we go to that function, all right, student count, or put it would be, let me see if I can increase this a little bit. All right, so here we're doing our heading. We have our two loops, but we're gonna put, we don't want the heading to print 15 times, right? In this case, 5 times. So what? We start the function, the definition of the function, and we print out our heading. Then we start our loop process. Everybody got that? Because we want the heading to print only once, all right? So here we got name, score, score 1 is behind. It's to the right of this. Score 1, all right? And I just continued on here with score 2, score 3, score 4, and then average, all right? So that's my heading. And everybody should somewhat know how to do your headings. But then look, a for loop. And in essence, when we read the information in, we're basically doing it that way. For x equals 0, x less than the number of rows. How many names do we have? Then what? We outputting the name, sub 0, okay? Because x is 0. Then we fall into this other loop. For int y equals 0, y less than the number of columns. So now we outputting score sub 0 sub 1, score sub 0 sub 2, score sub 0 sub 3, score sub 0 sub 4, in this case, and kicking back out. Because look, I'm doing it right. Print out the first one, sub 0 sub 0, kick out, but I'm still in this loop, sub 0 sub 1, kick back up, sub 0 sub 2, sub 0 sub 3, all right, sub 0 sub 4. Then, before I go back and print the next name, if I'm doing the student average, I have to print out average, sub, and whatever that subscript is for the name. Because what? The name subscript here and the average subscript has to be the same. Because if I'm printing out name sub 0, I need to print out average sub 0. When I print out name sub 1, I need to print out average sub 1. I don't want them shifted or mixed up, okay? So then it kicks on out and completes the program. So let's look at the other option where if you choose to do the class average. Now this one is the one where you got to be a little shifted, all right? So we call a calculate function. Calculate function is going to be a little different, all right? So we call a calculate function where we're trying to calculate the scores for all the students for the first test, all the students for the next test. So look what happens here. Same basic thing, set total of 0 here. Then we have a loop starting, but now look what happened. Rather than start with X, we started with what? Let's say not X. Rather than start with rows, we started with what?
Columns.
The columns. So now we done kind of reversed our loop. So what? We're gonna start with row 0, column 0, but then rather than go to row 1, we're gonna go to what? We're gonna still be at row 0 and column what? We're gonna be at row 1, but we're gonna still be at column what? 0. right? I mean, they would be at row 2, but we still have to be at column 0. Row 3 in column 0. Row 4, column 0. Row 5, column 0. And on until you get to your 15th element. Everybody understand that? So let me run the program, and and we could probably explain it. Where am I? Oh, here. What happened? Oh, all right. So what this logic is saying, all right, so I'll choose 2. All right, so what this logic is saying, up in here, right in here, we at column 0, y is equal to 0. So really we right here, say this is the first column, so that's 0. Well, the first row, that's 0. So 0 sub 0. But rather than go across here, we're gonna go down because we in that inner loop. You got what I'm saying? Rather than y changing each time, x gonna change. Everybody see that? Everybody understand what's happening? Rather than y change, now x is changing. Y is staying consistently at 0, x is at 0, then x changed to 1, x changed to 2, x changed to 3, x changed to 4. So we done added what? Rather than across, we adding going down, right?
Right.
Right. And then we find the average, but we store the average in average sub what? Not x, but average sub what?
Y.
Y, because what? That's the number of columns. So when we do that, we kick back up here, y becomes what? 1. So we move over to the next group of scores, and then we fall into this loop, and x, got 0, x is 0, y stays at 0, x become 1, y stays at 0, x become 2, y stays at 0, x become 3, y stays at 0, x become 4. Then we calculate, and then we kick on out. So you understand what happened? The program is similar, but with a little twist. But if you understand that concept, you're like, oh, okay, well, man, I just need to add the numbers in the column. Oh, I'll do that. I know how to do that. Swap out my row, swap out my loops. You got it, right? Rather than trying to say, oh, I gotta try to create this big old function of logic with so many lines of code. Nope, it's just a few lines of code. All right. So everybody understand that. All right. Now to output it, okay? The output is the we look at it, it will be the put ds2 function. And like I said, you got to make sure all of your arguments is the same, and when you're actually defining it, your data types are correct. All right. So now here we have our header. I mean our heading for our output. Now, if we had the same heading for both, we could have put our heading in the main function. But we know that what? One have a heading without the average on the right-hand side, and one does. So that's why we have the two different. I have the two different header files headers printing. So, but look what's happening here. We print the heading, but then what? We do the exact same thing that we did when we read in the data. We go back to the original way of processing our loop. With what? Outer part is the rows, inner part is the column, because we want to print out the data the way we read it in. So you're printing out what? X is 0. You print out the name, all right? A name sub X. Then you fall into this loop. Then you're going to print out a score sub 0, sub 0, sub 0, sub 1, sub 0. So now you're going across for each test score, right? And then you come back, X becomes 1. Then you print out name sub 1, fall into the Y loop, and what? X is 1, Y is 0. X is 1, Y is 1. X is 0, Y is 2, on and on. And then once you complete the output of the name and the scores, now that average that you calculated in that array, now you can create a for loop so that you can what? Print going across each average. For x is equal to 0, because what? Well, x could be any number now because we just starting over. But we going up until what? Which is column. So we going from 0 to 4, and we printing what? Average of 0, average of 1, average of 2, average of 3, average of 4. And you're going to be doing average of 5 because you got 5, right? And that's basically what the program is. It's like I said, we went through it. It sounds easy, but it could be challenging, all right? It could be challenging. So, did I speak?
You get your functions and the last function there. You have.
I can't hear you.
I said that function there.
What about it?
On the last one.
What about it?
I have 6 that I'm passing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I have 3 ints that I'm passing.
Do you have 3 what?
3 ints instead of just 1.
3 ints?
Yeah.
I have 3 ints also, but one is a 2-dimensional array, one is a single-dimensional array, and one is the rows.
Like I have 1 string and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ints. Like a total of 5.
You're talking about here in this argument list?
Yeah.
So okay, you're sending you have a string array, right?
Right.
Then what you have? A 2-dimensional.
I have a 2-dimensional int. Then I have a 1-dimensional int.
Okay.
Then I have int total students, int test scores, and int average. So I have the 15, 15, 5.
Wait. Now what is total score? Total score is the score, a 2-dimensional array?
No.
So what's total?
Yeah. Score is my 2-dimensional array.
So you said something about total score though.
Total students, and then test scores, and then average. So what I'm doing is when I'm passing the array, I'll go like D underscore DG, open parentheses 4 underscore DG, comma 15. So I'm passing those 2.
You passing 5 and 15?
Right. I'm passing 15, 15, and 5.
15, 15, and 5?
Yeah.
Why? 15 is 15 no matter if you pass it 1 time or if you pass it 100 times. All you're doing is increasing the amount of allocation space. You understand?
Yeah.
What I'm saying here, see here where I have int row, right?
Right.
Row is a constant, right?
Right.
Row is equal to 5 in my program, right?
Right.
So whether or not I pass another a variable that's equal to 5 and that's constant, all I'm doing is wasting resources. Because when I want to use 5, all I need to do is use what?
5.
Use row.
Right.
Yeah, you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Right. So, like I say, and what it can cause you to have more errors, because you're using it for something else, or you use it, I might use it for name, then I change name and then try to create another variable, then I done threw something off. So, like I say, if you know something is one value, that 15 is dealing with my rows, use that for all. So when I know I'm using rows, I know that value, and I know that is dealing with my rows or whatnot. But don't try to pass it the same value in 2 different functions. And normally they constant. It's not going to change, correct?
Correct.
Right. So just pass that 1. But did you pass the average array? Or the array that holds the average? Not. Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah, but you don't want to waste resources. So
like I could have passed an array without having that number.
Right. Listen, what happens is because normally when you declare your array up here, it already have the number. You got what I'm saying?
Right.
So when you pass an array, remember we said array is like a pointer. So we pass in the array and the array could be 100 elements. It passing the starting address. So when you're actually passing that array here, when I call this, when I call scores here, it's passing the starting address, right? And then when I go to that call function, it starts at the first one. If it's int, if I add one to it, it moves 4 bytes over. You got what I'm saying?
Right.
So the array can be empty, or it can have values in it, either way. But when you pass it, you're telling it, if it has values in it, I want to pass this array, and it passes everything with it. All of the values, okay? Just like what? Like when we do the put. When we do put here, we got string NM. So it's taking name, and whatever name that name array has in it, it's storing it into NM. That's how I can do right here when I do a cout NM sub 0. It done passed everything in the NM, so NM sub 0, whatever it is going to output it. Got me?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Now, let me just see something here. Let's see where was a row, but this is 4, so I don't know what's going on here. But let's debug this part, and I'm gonna show you how I would try to debug it to see what actually is going on. So I'll put the actual constant 4 here, and then I'll try to run the program again, all right, and see what actually happens. And it should give me the exact same thing, though. Okay, so here we go, and I'll put in what it was 1. Get in. See, you give me the exact same thing. Now, so let's try to debug it. In trying to debug it, what we doing here? We taking total and dividing it by 4, right? But we getting the wrong answer. So there's several things we can do. In here, I could do something like this. I could say, see, I want to see how many times it's adding the total. So I could do a cout. All right, so I'll say cout adding the total, all right, and I'll do a new line. So how many times I should see this output when I execute this program? How many times I should see this adding to total? It should be a series of, It should be a series of, if I'm doing a student, it's going across, so I should see a series of 4 in this program, and then another series of 4, another 5 series of 4, right? Because I'm adding 4 scores for the first name, then adding 4 scores for the next name, then adding 4 scores for the next name, then adding 4 scores for the next name. Correct? Right, Klein? All right, so let's run it. All right, so I'll try to run it, and I need to run the option where it's gonna do it. I'll say 1. Now, so here we go. Well, I'll tell you what I'll do to break break it up so we can see the different series. I'll just before we fall in the loop, I'll just do a cout so we could just count the series. All right. Oh, good. All right. So here, at the beginning or at the end, in the beginning or the end, or the beginning or the end, or the map. So let's run it. Here we go. And I'll choose 1. So here we got what? So what is doing? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Which is what? Everybody, who could tell me what's up here?
You're printing the adding to total. You're printing the adding to total.
Okay, but look, what I did was I put this statement in here to say adding to total. Remember, let's look at our data file. This is our data file. We have our name and we have what? 1, 2, 3, what? 4 test scores, correct?
Correct.
When we look at this, what we have, what's going on here? How many times we add to total? Is that correct?
No.
So what? By putting that statement in, now it look like I found some type of what? Logical issue, correct?
Yeah.
Because I should only be dividing by, I should only be adding to score how many times?
4.
4 times. So look what happened. For int y equals 0, y less than what? What I have here? Huh?
Row.
So what that should be?
4.
Or
Column.
Or column. Because remember, column is 4, right?
Right.
So that way, but everybody see what happens. I put in that little small statement, and what happened? It allowed me to see how my program is processing. Then I can go back and say, wait a minute, why is it adding to total 5 times? And then what I do in here, I went in here to see how many times actually my formula, my function is actually running that particular process. Everybody see that? So those are some little debugging tips, that you can use to find out what's actually going on. Now, we could have also outputted before we did this, the actual total that we was getting. And then we'd have to try to decipher, why am I getting, if I have 4 scores and they equal to 100, why am I getting 500? You remember, because remember my first row was what? Should have been, 400, correct? So what I'll do, I'll leave this at row, and let's see if we done went the other route. If we done went the other route and change, and not did this, I'll take this out. If we done went the other route and done something like this, see out, if I could say, all right, see out total, and then total. All right, so now, what happened? Oh, NL. All right, so now, if I did it this way, and like I say, given the fact that I know my input file, I got 100, 100, 100, 100, all right? So those are some of the things I have to kind of be able to consider and know. Where did I go? All right, so now I'll go to source. Now when I run it or debug it, did it come up? Okay. All right. So now I'll put 1. So notice what happened. Well. See, look, it say 4 what? It says 490. This one says 478. This one says 428. This one says 454, but then I have an extra one. But how did I get 490 rather than 500? I don't know why I got that. If total is equal to 0, I'm adding the first one. I'm adding the second one. Let's see something. How did I get 490? Now that's an issue I don't understand. Why would it give me 490? But I know that what? It's 90 over the what? 400. But I still don't understand because it should have gave me what? 500 for that one. So let's see something. So still, and I guess I just still need to, I'll do this. Not here. I'll do it here. All right, so I just put another one to see when they're going through the process of what happened, but still, it should have gave me the 5. Okay, 1. All right, so here, let's see. 4, okay, got first time through, total was 100. Second time through, total was 200. Third time through, total was 300. Fourth time through, total was 400. There's a 4th time through. The 5th time through, I don't know why it's getting, but then 2, this should have been 500. This should have been 500. Okay. And another thing I could do is this. But these are just some debugging tips. All right. Okay, I'm printing a total. Now I'm gonna try to print the actual value and see what happens. All right, so we'll see what happens here. So, looking at the first one, and see 100, 100, 100, 100. Ah, yeah, I know what it did. I'm thinking 500. This is what happened, class. Notice here, it did 100, 100, 100, 100, then it did what? 90. You got what I'm saying? It picked up the next one from the next row. Then, if we go back, it still picked up 90 here though. Unless and was 90. It wouldn't have done that. Then 100, 90, well, 90, 100, 95, 93, and then 100, which was Sue. All right. So, but you understand, so it actually grabbing the data in an incorrect manner, like we was talking about before. So even in your loops, you can have your data file set up correctly, but if you're reading it in extra values or whatever, it can throw it off also. So that's what was happening. So when we have this row in here, that throws off the count as to how many it's reading when it goes in at a time. All right.
I can't see your screen.
Huh?
I can't see the screen.
What we looking at? I'm not sharing my screen.
I don't see it.
Anybody else? Am I sharing my screen? Oh, well, see. Well, I should be sharing it. Can you see it?
Now I can see it.
Oh, were you seeing it before?
Yeah.
Oh,
and
okay.
all of a sudden it went out.
Okay, I must have hit a button or something. All right. So, so here, our problem was this column. All right. So that was our problem. All right. So now, we take this out. I could go back in and take all my tests, my little control mechanisms out. And now when I run it, I don't need this, huh? I don't think I need this. So now when I run it, now the program should pretty much run. So when I put in 1, all right. Now I also still have what? This information in. All right. So I need to take that out. Remember I printed out the and I have to find out where that's at in total. Oh, that's in my output. And this one, I need to take out X. Okay. All right. And once you do that, yeah, take out all your debugging little tactics. And then normally when you run it, Now when I do the one, bam, program, that's the first one. All right, name, score, average. Now, I would tell you, I normally would tell my 192 and 193 class the same thing. When you write your program and you get output, and say like we got something like this, and this looked pretty and everything, like before I had it. It looks pretty. Always go back, take a calculator or go in the Excel worksheet and check your information to make sure that what? Your logic is working correctly. Because just because your data is printing out and it look pretty does not mean that it's necessarily correct. Everybody understand that? You got to make sure that once you get output, start making sure that the output that you're getting is the correct output, right? So make sure you do that. And like I say, for each one, when I go back to the other one, I do the debug and I'll do option 2, for the other one. To make sure that it's giving me the correct output, all right? Okay, now, like I say, this is the program, but like I say, key thing, header file. Make sure, now, there's one thing too, the file object. The file object can also be passed as an argument, but you can just go ahead on and, like I say, declare your file object, up here, global, just like you're doing your variables global, and then all you do is just open it in the function you're going to use it. Mr. Geddes had an issue, but I thought it was his file object, but what we determined it was, Mr. Geddes, it was your subscripts or something.
Had to do with I was passing it with the 2-dimensional array.
Yeah. It was a subscript.
I was trying to pass 2-dimensional array like you pass a regular.
Right, yeah, and it was giving him an error, but it was giving it on him in the data file. And when I just looked at it, I said, "Oh, it's whatever." And then he tried it. It was still error. And then after
I gave you the error message, I think.
Right. Yeah. But like I say, you got to take your time and look, class, step by step. First thing, do your get, okay? And like I say, example. Let me copy this. I'll do a copy of this. Control C. All right. I'm gonna copy this information and show you how I would somewhat start it off. All right. I'll close this. I'll close the solution, and then I'll start a new one. All right. Oh, is Miss Bradford on? I don't see Miss Bradford, but she was having issues. I think it was the way she was creating a file. But
I'm on here.
Oh, what's up, Miss Bradford?
Hey.
All right, let's start the process of creating a file. Many times, well, not many times, always with visual, unlike a lot of other IDEs or compilers, you cannot just double click on a file that you have that's a C++ file and it opens up in Visual Studio and you're ready to work. You can't do that. You have to either open up a project or create a project.
Well, that's what I did.
Well, you created it. All right.
Yeah, I created it.
All right, so let's go through but now let's just go through the steps. Go through the steps, and this is Visual 2017, and there is the how to.
See, I think I have 2019.
Oh no, that's a different story. See, remember,
and it won't let me download 2017 on my laptop.
Why?
I don't know. It's that 2019 always pop up.
No, but did you install 2017?
Yeah, but it came back to 2019.
No, what you do, go to the start menu. Normally, if you go to the start menu, and then you can scroll up. I saw it up here. Normally, when you add it, it'll be like recent application.
No, it's not. It's not on there, I promise. It's not.
You scroll down and you should see Visual Studio, whatever version that you have, because there's should be two different software.
It's 2019. I'll try it again to download it, but I'm telling you, it's not. So uninstall the 2019.
Right now, that'll take a little time to it won't take a long time to uninstall. Yeah, uninstall. But then remember the 2017, I had a link under the signing of the role. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
And all you got to do is click on it, download it, and then run it. Remember? Like yeah, go to that link. Okay.
All right. That's probably why I was having issues then, huh?
Yeah, 2019 is it's somewhat different. All right. But look, you go to File, and you do New, and you do Project. Now, depending on if you load the full version, you're gonna have various applications here, like your Visual Basic. You might have Python, Java. You need to make sure this it's at C++. All right, and you want the Windows Desktop, and then you want to choose Windows Desktop Wizard. Okay. Once you do that, you could give it a name. So in our class, we'll just say, we'll call it arrays, all right? We'll just give it that name, all right? It tells you where it's gonna save it, everything. So click OK, and now we choose empty project, and we click OK. It's gonna create the empty file. Now I need to move this. All right, you right click on source, add new item, and now you can do C++ and add. I could have changed the name from source to something else. All right.
Well, see, I was able to do all that on 2019.
Right.
And it brought me.
But if you don't follow those certain steps, how would I say it? It still might not run in a desktop environment. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you something. Can I save it on a desktop?
Yeah, and you can save your work, download the 2017, and then copy it into it. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. But what you'd have to do is open up a blank project like I've gotten here, then go into right click on the file and open it into like Notepad, select everything, and then paste it into this.
Okay.
Yeah, like that. Yeah. Then what we can do, our source files, we could click on source files, header files, whatever. It'll take us to the same place. All right, add new item. If we want a header file, header.h. All right. We want a data file. We go to utilities and we do like just a plain text file. Okay. And then we do add, and we'll see all the different files we have. Now remember our data file. No, I had 4 test scores. All right. And I'm just putting in some numbers here for sake of time. Now, if somebody made a 0, I cannot just leave it blank. I have to put a number. You understand? I have to put a number. All right. I cannot leave it blank because it'll do like what it was doing in the program we was working with. It'll skip it. All right. Or it'll take whatever. It'll go to that next number. All right. So now I have my 5 scores. I mean my 5 records where I have a name 4, name 4, name 4, name 4, name 4. All right. So now in my source, if I paste this stuff here, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take all of this out. Okay. Or I could comment it out. Okay. I'll paste all of this out. I'm gonna just take all of this out. All right. I'll do /*. All right. So now I just commented all that out, but let's go back to the beginning. All right. And I don't have a header file. We ain't gonna worry about the header file. But I'll do the include IO stream. And now I know I'm gonna have an input file. So what? Pound include F stream. All right, gotta have that. I know that I'm doing string. Okay, pound include. So you know you're gonna have to kind of have prep and know somewhat of what you're gonna be doing in the program. All right. So I have this. So now using namespace. So now I say, okay, I want to just read in my data and write out my data. Okay, how do I do that? So I'll say, okay, in file, or IF stream, okay, and I'll do input. I'll just say input. All right. Then I'll do my array sizes. All right, my size declarators. I'll do const int, and I'll say rows. I can do row. I'll use rows with an S. Okay, equal 5. All right, semicolon, and const int columns equals 4. Now, where did I get those numbers from? Okay, going back to my data file. How many rows I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have 5 rows of data. But now this is where the trick comes in. It depends on what you're dealing with. Now you say, well, Mr. Sylvester, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns of information, which is true. But this one column here is just names of string. So that's just one column. That's not a 2-dimensional, all right? So I don't need a column specification for that. But I have here 1, 2, 3, 4 names going across. I mean, not names, numbers going across, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers going down. So wait a minute, they all of the same data type. So now what I can do here is create a 2-dimensional array. What? How many rows? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many columns? 1, 2, 3, 4. So everybody understand how I came to that to rationalize that I need 5 rows, rows going to be equal to 5, columns going to equal to 4. In your program, rows going to equal to 15, and columns going to equal to 5. So if you understand what I'm saying, if you can grasp the concept, you could write code for almost anything with 2-dimensional. But if you're just trying to, oh, I'm gonna get this and copy this and put this in there, get it right, then you're kind of missing the point. And when you move on, it's like you're gonna have to try to figure it out all over again. So learning the concept, man, can take you a long way. All right. So we know we have 5 rows of numbers and then 4 columns. So rather than put them in test 1, so 0 to 5, test 2, 0 to 5, test 3, which you can do though, but then now you're gonna have what? A name array, and then a score 1 array, score 2 array, score 3 array, score 4 array. You know what I'm saying? So now you got 5 different arrays when you can have what? Just simply 2 arrays, one single dimensional array with string and a 2-dimensional array of int. Okay? So now that's why we did that. So now what we need to do is, I'll do the int main, also int main. All right. And then here. Now, what you can do, you can say, well, I don't want to create the function yet. Okay, you can say, that's cool. That's up to you. I want to just be able to read it in and write it out, and then I'll take my data and what? Put it in a function. You can do that. That's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes you can run into issues in that copying data or moving data. What's need to be passed, not need to be passed. But let's say for the sake of argument, I'm gonna just write it to where I can read it and write it out. So in here, I would do in data or input. My fault. Input dot open, okay, and my data file, which is text.txt, okay. All right. So I've opened the file to read it. So now, I also need to what? Define my arrays. So I need what? A string array. All right. And what I want to give it, just say name, name. And what? How large is my array? My array is 5 because I got 5 names, 5 rows. All right. Then I have my int array of scores. All right. I'll call it scores. All right. And I have what? Rows. Remember, I told you in computer science, we deal with row and column. All right. And columns. All right. Semicolon. So now we've declared our arrays. All right. And now remember, Mr. Gaddis pointed out that we're really gonna initialize our string array for names. So you can kind of disregard this for now, and then just initialize the array for names. I'm gonna just do it where I'm gonna read it from a data file. All right. Now, so okay, we got that defined. So now, what we need to do is we need to read in our names and scores. So what? And I could say int. And I could just use any variable. I could say I equals 0, I less than what? The rows, right? I plus plus, all right? Now, like I told you, I always like to put my curly braces. You don't have to, depending on what you're doing, but I just like to do it this way so I'm kind of organized. I know where I can put information when I want to add it. Then I'll do the what? For int j equals 0. This will be our columns. J less than columns. All right. J plus plus. Now, all I did was what? Create my 2 loops, right? But I still need to read my data. So when I'm getting to the first loop, I need to read in my name. So I need to do what? In data. Oh, not in data. That's from the other one. Input name. All right. But I can't use name. Being that I made name an array, I have to reference it with a subscript when I'm either outputting it or whatnot. So I'll say name sub I, right? So when I is 0, I'm reading in that first name, okay? And then I'm gonna fall in that loop for j is equal to 0, and then I'm reading in my names going across, all right? So in this one, I would have input, and this would be scores. Now, I can't use scores by itself because what? Scores is of a 2-dimensional array, so I sub j. So I'm reading in the scores. Now, that allowed me to read it in. But now I can say, okay, well, let me see what happens. I don't know if it read it incorrectly or not. So what I could do here, I could copy this same information here. But I'm saying if I kind of understand the logic, all right, I'll copy this same information and I'll paste it down here so I can output it. So I'll say for I is equal to 0, whatever, rather than input, I'm gonna do what? Cout, name sub whatever, all right? Then rather than do input here, I'll do cout. So just like I read it in, I'm gonna do what? Print it out, right? So now, the thing is though, I may want to put some spaces in between whatever, because I don't want all my data close together, but that's something you're gonna have to work with, all right? All right, now, so here we have this. So now I got name, okay, then I'm printing our scores. But then after each name, I wanna go to a new line. I don't wanna do it while I'm in the loop. Once I get out that for loop, that first for, that inner loop, then I wanna see out a new line. Okay, all right. So let's look at this and see what happens. So, but this is no functions, all right? Your program not gonna be correct if you try to do it this way. But I'm just saying, this is how you can try to get started so that you know you're on the right track, you know you're reading your data, and you know you're printing out your data, all right? So let's run this, debug it. When I go to build, because the new program, compile it. Okay, one succeeded. That don't mean anything. Let's run it.
So you have to compile it before you debug it?
I would compile it because what happens if you just try to debug it, and if you have an error, it'll ask you, do you want to run the previously successful run? And if you say yes, it's gonna run the, like say you didn't have an error prior to that, it's not doing the changes. You understand?
Yeah.
And some people click yes, run it without the new changes. So that's why you compile it at least the first time. You know, after that you can do the compile. You know what I'm saying? But always say run it with the new changes. So notice, okay, here we have our output, and let's look at our data, because you want to make sure what you actually reading in what you typed in. So look here, Bill 29, 83, 83, 92, Jim 89. So all the information was read in properly and what? Outputted properly. All right, so we got that. So we say we got that. So now what you can start doing is saying, well, as Sylvester say, he wanted his data read in from a what? A function. So now what we can do is start trying to get our functions. All right, so what I can say is, okay, I have my information for my input. So right here, I could do something like this and say, okay, all right, inputting data. All right, and this one say, I'll just put a comment. All right, so we have it kind of like label. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna say, okay, we need to read our data, all right? We need to create a function, all right? So we need to come up with a function name. This is where we declare in our global variables. So here I can have, I could say void, and we said get, and then your initials. So I'll say DS, all right? So what are we passing? What are the data? What's the data that we need to get in our get function? Okay, we want our string data, and our string data is of array, is of an array. Okay, then we want to get our scores. All right. Now, in doing scores, if you look at it or look up two-dimensional, the first subscript you should pass. The second subscript you declare within here, and the second one is columns. All right, and so I forgot to give it the data type, int scores. All right, so I don't need scores. I just need the data type, because we'll deal with it. So now, then I would have to pass the row value, and that's simply int, okay, semicolon. Okay, so I'm gonna read in a string array, and I'm gonna read in a two-dimensional array of int, and then I'm gonna pass the row value so that I can use it and manipulate it in my function. All right. So now I've got, that's my function prototype. So now at the end of my main, I can define my function. Okay. Void get ds. Now, that's wrong. Now I need to give my arrays and my variables a name. I have to give the data type string. Now I could use the same name that I use in the main function, but we know that they are two different variables. So I'll say nm, okay? So nm would be the array for names, and I'll make sure that I use it as an array because it is, I'm passing the array. Then SCR is the score. I'm passing the score, but remember I told you for the columns, you have to specify the variable for column. Forgot to give the data type, int, all right? Okay, then now I wanna pass my integer value, and this is rows. I could give it rows, or I could give it R, okay? Here I could say columns, or I could say C. But I could run into issues when I'm dealing with I and J and X and Y, C and R. So I'll just leave it at columns, which would give me a better understanding of what it is. All right. So now, then I need to define my body. All right. So here, remember I told you in the prototype, I'm passing a string array, a two-dimensional int array, and an int. Okay. I'm passing a string array into name. I'm passing a two-dimensional int array into SCR, and I'm passing an int value into rows. Okay, it has to match. If it doesn't match, you get errors. You get errors and you get linkage errors. Now, to get the data, do I need to write code? Well, no, I don't. All I need to do is go up here and do what? Grab my what? Well, not here. Where it is. When did I open? Oh yeah, well I wouldn't need that one. See, that's one thing. Well, let's do it like this and see what error we get because we did it that way. All right. So we're gonna grab this, which is the logic for the input. Copy that. I'll cut it, and now I'll paste it in here. The same exact logic. All right. So now. Notice what happened though. Name was recognized or understood in the main function because I declared name and I declared scores. But in here I said name was going to be passed into what? In M. So wherever I have name array, I have to make it in M. If I would have left it the same name as in the main, it would have been okay. Scores is SCR, and notice now it understands whatever scores is going to be passed into here, and I can use it in this program. All right, so let's run it. I think I'm gonna still have an error because, all right. So let's build it. Okay, and debug it. All right, you see how I got errors now. What it is no data was placed in my fields. Now, I don't see what a name is. But what happens is this here needs to be in here. So when I use input, it knows that object. All right. So now, rows and columns. All right. So for I is equal to whatever, all right, read that. And then, oh, I know what the problem. Let me put this back. I didn't even call the function. All right, undo. All right, what I forgot to do, class, did I put it back? Yeah, I didn't call the function. So before I do the output, I need to call call input. All right, call the input function. And that would be what? Get ds. And now I have to tell, when I'm calling it, I have to tell it the string array that I'm passing. And it's what? Name. I'm not putting any array portion on it, just the array name. Then I'm passing what? Scores. All right. Then I'm passing row or rows. Okay. So I'm saying I want when I'm calling get ds, I want to pass the name array, scores, which is a two-dimensional array, and rows, which is a integer value. It's going to be passed. Name's going to be passed in the nm array. Score's going to be passed in the SCR two-dimensional array, and rows going to be passed in an int variable called rows here. And now what? When I run this, now it knows that, hey, I'm going to call this function to get the data before I output it. Because I tried to do what? Output the data without having it inputted. So let's do the debug. All right. So see what happens? I created my input function. I took the copy of the data and put it in a function, and I ran it. So see what I'm saying? It's like a step-by-step process to making sure what? I done got this, now I can move on to the next step. Now, okay, I'm printing out this data, but now I wanna print out my output. So for the output, I'll do the same thing. I'll create my function, all right? Declare my function, void. I'll just say put ds. I don't know what I gave it to you. I wanna pass the string. I want to pass my integer array. And I want to pass an int value, which would be the rows. All right. Now, I know I need to call it, but I'm gonna wait to do the call, and I'm gonna create my definition. So here we go with what? Void put ds, and what? I could do the same thing here. My string, my name gonna go in the nm, my score is gonna go in the SCR, and my int value gonna go in the rows. I could copy this if I want to, or not, or retype it, you know, because I'm passing all this into here. All right, copy this. And I'm doing this because what? The same information that I'm passing to get is the same information I'm doing to put. But we haven't done average yet, so that's gonna be when we do our put, we're gonna have to add that function, that array into our argument list. But right now we're just trying to see if we could get the data out the data file from a function and put the data from a function. All right. So here we have our function, and where's our output information is here, and we choose this data. And again, when we do this, it's gonna show errors because what? We did change our names. All of a sudden, remember, names is really what? NM. Scores is really what? SCR. You know, we gave it a new name when we passed it into our function.
So, Mr. Sylvester, all of this is the header. All of this is the header.
This is the actual code.
Okay, Lord have mercy. I'm sitting here like.
No, the header is just your name, and I could do that for you if I want that. But your header file look correct. But your header file, all you're doing is you loading it at the beginning of here. You know what I'm saying? You create it, and then you finish with it, and then you executing from your CPP file.
Okay.
Right. So in here now, so we're gonna define our output. So, but I never called it here to execute it. So here, I'll say, all right, and then that would be what? Put, all right, DS, and what we passing? A name array, our name array, our two-dimensional scores array, and we passing rows. All right. So let's see what happens. Okay, if it's gonna do the same, give it us the same result. Uh-oh. Oh, wait, what did I do? Unable to start. Let's see something. Click here and go here, go to compile. Okay. Click here and do debug. All right, so here we go. So we got the exact same results, right? So the first time I did it without functions to say, let me see if I can grasp the concept of reading data into an array, single array, and a two-dimensional array, make sure it's getting my data right or whatever. Then I say, okay, he wanna read the data from a function. So I created a function, ran it, and then he said, oh, well, he wanted the output to come from a function. So I created an output function and then ran it, and it read the data and then printed the data, and both from a function, all right? Because if you look at your main function, the main function only consists of my declarations, all right? The opening of my file and my declaration, all right? All right, this is my main function. All right, open that file for input, and then declare my name array, my scores array, and then call in my function to get the data from a file, and then putting the data back out to see if it's correct. All right, and then you would work on your calculations. Now, like I say, also if you look at the output, the data is not aligned. But if you took 193, in 193, I think it was chapter 5, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was chapter 5, 4 or 5, where we had a library called, not STD, IOMAN IP. That allowed you to manipulate your decimals, places, and numbers, but we just dealing with all ints here, all right? And it also allowed you to manipulate the column width of an output, even the alignment of the output. So you'll be able to see and align your numbers based upon that. Because all I need to do here, if I wanted to output this information like I want, and like I say, let's run it. I'll show you what it looked like. Just run it. I'll run it this way. All right, so we run it this way, and look how the data looks. Okay, looks fairly decent. But if we say, okay, in our output, what I'll do is I'll do something like this. I'll say, being that I have IOMAN IP at the top, I'll say I'll do a /T just to tab it over, and then I'll do something like left, which is a command, and then I'll say set W to, I'll say 6, all right? And that's all commands that's valid. These commands are valid. I'm setting up, whatever I print is gonna be to the left of a 6 column width, all right? 6 character column width. So now, then I want to print out my scores. Rather than use this now, I could use set W, and I could say 8. But rather than do it like that, I'll say a right align, so all my numbers will start from the right going to the left, meaning that no matter how long the number is, the test score is, everything will be aligned from right to left. All right? And so I could take this out. Okay. And now when I run my program, all right. Uh-oh, what am I got an error? Oh, at the end. All right. Debug it. And see, that look a whole lot better. You understand? And look, all my numbers are right aligned. So no matter how large your number is still, you know, I can see everything in the ones column, 10 column, 100 column. All right. So that's how I got those numbers to line up in that output example that you're going to use to output your data. All right. Now, so that's calculating. I mean, that's input and output. But we need to calculate our data, right? Now, to calculate your data, you need to manipulate that data in that you need to add these four numbers together if what? If your ID is odd, last four, and look, all you have to do is check to see if your last digit in your L number is odd or even. That tells you if your L number is an odd number or even number. So those I think who had odd L numbers, they had to do the average of each student. So what? Add these four together, average. 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 Okay? Now, those who had the even number, they had to what? Add these five numbers, average. 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 Okay? Now, like I said, it's a little trick that's not that hard, but it can be done. So let's create our function, all right? So in this case, we'll just say, okay, I'll do the void, all right? And I'll say CAL1, okay? And then DS. And what we need to pass, we don't need to pass the name into our calculation function because name is not being manipulated in any kind of way, moved over or either factored into the results. So all we need to pass is our integer two-dimensional array, all right, and our integer row, all right. Okay, so that's what we need to pass. Now, if we're doing our calculations going across, all of a sudden now we also need to pass in this calculation an average function array, all right? So we need an average array. So now what happens is, I got this down. Okay, so now what I have to do is, in the program, create an array for my average, right? An integer array for average, okay? So I have that array. Now, I have to give a size. So the size of the average array, if you're doing each student, would be what size? It would be 4, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the size of that array. All right. So we're doing the average for each student. Our average array, no. If we're doing each student, the average array should be 5 because we got 5 students to find the average for. So I'll be printing the average here, average here, average here, average here, and average here. So it'll be 5. All right. So when I go back to, not here, to the program, when I go back to here, now I can put what? Row in here, right? Rows, right? Because that's the number of rows. Now name, I could use the same thing rather than put 5, that would be rows. All right, now, and I got int average rows. Now, so when I define my function, when I call my function, when I do a calc, what I call it, calc Because you got to remember, Cal 1 DS, all right? Cal 1 DS, all right? I got to pass what? My scores, which is the two-dimensional array, my single-dimensional array, which is average, and I got to pass rows, all right? So I'm passing all that to calculate my data. So now, okay, that's calling what? All right, so I'm calling that function. So now, I'm getting the data, then I'm gonna calculate the data, then I'm gonna put the data. Now, it doesn't matter the order at the bottom in which, in how the definitions are listed, but I'll just put them in the same order. So I have void, and then it'd be cal 1 ds, and then I don't need the string data, I need the int, and let's just stay with SCR, single or two-dimensional array, and then I want to pass my average array. I'll pass it into AVG array, and then I'll pass my I gotta give it a name. I mean a data type. All right, and then I gotta pass my integer array. It's supposed to be with an S too. And then my int array. I mean my int of rows. All right. So now, so I have this. Now I need to define how the calculations are to be done using my statements in C++. So what? For, and I could do same thing, I equals 0 for int. I equals 0. I less than what? We'll do what? Rows, because what? We got 5 rows, right? We're doing this two-dimensional process, all right? Rows, yes. Rows plus, all right? So, and like I say, I always like to do my open and close curly braces, and then we have our other one for int j equals 0, j less than columns, j plus. All right, and that's our inner loop. So, all right, I got rows, I got columns. What's wrong? Oh, no. This should be my fault here. This should be I, because rows is constant. We're trying to get to rows. So I gonna increment till it get to rows. So I messed up on that. So you need to modify that. And this that's right. Okay, J plus. So that's how that should work. I don't know what's happening here. I plus. This here. All right. That's what it should be for int I equal whatever. I less than rows, I plus. Got it. All right. Okay. So now, what we need to do here is inside of this, all right, each time we going through this loop, oh, I got a comma, that's why. Okay. It's supposed to be semicolon, class. Now, each time we processing the loop, each time we going through this loop, I is equal to 0, j is equal to 0 to 4. All right, let's look at our data file. So what we're saying is we have this in an array, these numbers. So when I is 0, we starting here, and then we fall into the loop. While j is 0, so 0 sub 0. We're gonna take this number and add it to a total. Then we in that loop, inner loop, j becomes 1. We add 83 to the total. Then we increment j again, j becomes 3. We add 83 again to the total. Then j becomes 4. we add 92 to the total. And then we kick out, and then we go, I becomes 1. So we go 1 and J is 0. Then 1, J is 1. 1, J is 2. And 1, J is 3. And then on and on and on. So let's go back to the logic. Inside the logic, all right? Yeah. So inside the logic, I is 0. Okay, we fall into here. J goes from 1 to 4. I is 2, 1. I is 1. J goes from 0 to 4. I is 2. J goes from 0 to 4. I is 3. J goes from 0 to 4. 0, 1, 2, 3, really. 0 to 3, which is 4. All right? So what we want to do is say total, and we can do plus equal. All right? Plus equal, that means total is equal to total plus whatever score is. SCO scores, not score, SCR, sub I, sub J. That's my fault. All right, sub I, sub J. So each time through. But look, this is what we need to do. Int, well, not int, so total is equal 0. All right. So we do an int total here. We introduce a new variable inside of the loop. A function. So we do total equals 0, then we increment the total. Now, question, why do we want to set total equal to 0 here? The reason being, before we start processing a row of numbers, we want to always set total back to 0 so that we can get the correct average for each student, all right? So now in here, we would say AVG sub X is equal to total divided by the columns, all right? Because what? My fault, I. Because what? For every for that total, whatever that, say if I had four scores, all of them was 400. 400 divided by 4 would give me the 100, and that will be stored into average of I. Okay, so now that gives us our average. So now we need to test it. We also need to go back to the print or the output function, and now we need to modify our header file, our function header, because I want to pass a string. I want to pass the two-dimensional array for scores so that I can print out. I want to print out, pass the rows, but I also want to pass the average array so I can print the average. Now, it doesn't matter where I put it here, but once I start adding it to my other headings, I need to make sure they're consistent. So I'll just add it here. It don't matter where I add it, but I need to make sure it's consistent. So I can, when I want to pass it here, I'll call it AVG, int AVG, and I'll leave it at that. All right, so now I need to do it here, but I also, in my put, I need to pass AVG average here. All right, I need to know where to put it. I can't put it at the end because rows would be considered the average and it's not an array. I'll get an error. All right, then I need to go back up to my put function here, my protocol, and do int in an array. All right, so you see, I had to do this in all these places in order for my program to really work, because my argument list has to match for my prototype, for my call, and for my function definition. They have to match. If they don't match, you get an error, and I'll show you in a little while. So let's debug this. Let's build it and see what we get. We don't know if it's gonna be right, but we're gonna debug it and see. And let's run it. Oh, now you know what I didn't do. It's gonna give me the output, but it ain't gonna give me the average because I did not what? Print the average. I passed the average, but now look at this function. I'm printing out each score. I'm printing out the name right here. Where at? Name. I'm falling in this loop. I'm printing out the 4 scores, but then outside of this loop, before I do a new line, I need to output what? Average, okay? So I'll do a set W8 and AV, what I call it, AVG sub I. So now I'm printing out the average. Now, I don't have headings. You do your heading. So now it's printing out it's saying, okay, I0, which is my row. Okay, so I0. Then it's printing out NM sub I, which is 0. Then it's falling in this loop and saying J is equal to 0. So now I'm printing out J score sub 0 sub 0. All right. So it print out the first score in the array, but then it goes back up, J become 1. So it's going to print score sub 0 sub 1. Then it goes back, J becomes 2. It's going to print score sub 0 sub 2. Then it goes back through, and J becomes 3. It's going to print out score sub 0 sub 3. And then it goes back, it's 4. It kicks out. And now we're going to print out average sub I0. So it's going to print out the first average. Then it goes back to the outer loop, and I becomes 1. And now it's going to print name sub 1. It's going to fall into this loop. JB is a 0. So now it's going to print score sub 1 sub 0. Then it's going, J becomes 1. It's going to be print score sub 1 sub 1. So it's going to print all of our scores going across on that row, because I going to stay consistent until J gets to 4. And then I changes again. So let's run the program again and see what happens. All right. So debug it. And now we should get our, and I pressed the wrong debug. All right. So if you look at it, Bill, 29, 83, 83, 92, they have 71 average. Now, like I tell students, always go back and check this to make sure 71 is the right number. What I normally do, I'll take the easy way out. I'll go back here and I'll say, okay, I could make all these the same. 100. Oh, 100. 100. 100. So now when I go back and I run it, $100 is the average. You see, they made 100 on the first test, 100 on the second test, 100 on the third, 100 on the fourth. Look, 1, 2, 3, 4. Average, 100. So I know that my formula is what? Correct. You understand? But I could always go back and use a calculator and make sure that what? My averages are coming out correctly. All right? So that's the one for the odd numbers. Now, so we want to do the one for the even numbers. And how does that work? You're basically doing the same thing. So what I'm going to do, class, I'm going to take this same, this same code here, all right, and modify this. So now we need to do it for the class average, the average at the bottom, all right? So what we'll do is we call in the same information, but we need to process our calculations differently. Rather than I staying at 0 and J incrementing going across, we're going to set J at 0 and let I increment going down. Give me an example. Let's look at this. If I say I is 0, because don't disregard the names, because this is where the array starts for the numbers. If I is 0 and I add I sub 0 sub 0, I'm adding this number. If I go down here, I is well, J. Let J stay at 0. So I sub 0, J sub 0. But then what? I sub 1, J sub 0. I sub 2, J sub 0. I sub 3, J sub 0. I sub 4, J sub 0. So then we move to the next one. I sub 0, J sub 1. I sub 1, J sub 1. I sub 2, J sub 1. So you see how J gonna stay consistent. So if we trying to do that, the simple way to do that is invert our loops. So I would take this loop, okay, and this is J, which is our columns, and I'll paste it here, and I'll take our rows, and I'll paste it here. So now, what done happen? Rather than go from I0, J1, 0 to 4, we going from J0 to I0 to 5. You understand? But notice this. We need to store the data in average sub J, not average sub I, because J is our outer loop function. I mean, our outer loop variable, all right? But we don't want to divide by the number of columns because what? If we go back here, if I add all these up, 189, 82, 28, and 28, and divide by 4, then the students might have a ballooned average, correct? So I need to divide, if I go back, I need to divide this by the number of rows, okay? So now I need to divide that by the number of rows. So now we're gonna calculate all of the averages, and now what? All we need to do, we need to modify our output, because this time we're not outputting this inside of this. We're gonna output this after we print out all our data, all right? Our average gonna come out afterward, but then I'll have a heading. I'll have something like all right? So I have something like this, all right? Now, what is this average sub I? That's right. Oh. But now I have to do an average. My average, I have to do a loop because I'm printing out each one after I print out my data. So I could say int, I could start with I again. I equals 0, I less than, and this would be the columns. Columns, I plus, all right? And I always like to put my curly braces. All right. So now, I always put a column. I don't know why. All right. So now, let's run this one. So we debug it. Oh, I'm running it. Now, that's just an output error, and I'll show you what that error is. What happens is, after I print out the name in all 4 scores, I need to do a new line for each name. So I need to come here, and I'll need to do cout. All right, so That's what I need to do. So now when I debug it, we should get our output. You understand? So now my average is wrong because they need to go across. I got the first one as an average of a 65 and the next one and the next one. So this is all cosmetics. I don't want average in here, but one, I mean, not even in here. I want to take average out of here. All right. I'll copy this. And paste this here. All right. All right. So I'm printing out the average. And then I'll print out this information. All right. And then I wouldn't do a new line. I'll print out all this information as it go. And then after I get out, so all this is just cosmetics. All right, so let's run it. All right, debug it. All right, run it. And you should see here, I still didn't put a space. Let's see. Need to add a space. I'll just do a tab. All right. So, I don't want that done. I'll put it here. All right. So debug it. All right. So you see 65. I'll put another tab. But you'll use the column width. I could have used the column width. All right, so you see here, here's the information. Now again, make sure you add this up to make sure this is correct because you don't want to turn in the information, turn in the data. I check it and well, this is not right. All right. So what I normally do, like I say, just like I did the other one, you go back here. Okay, I'll take this one. I'll take this data here, 100, copy it, and I'll paste it to every one of these students. So what happened here is make it to where every student made 100 on test 1, all right? And that average should come out to be the average for that class, which is 100, all right? So if I run it again, see? The first one is a 100, right? So, like I say, that's the program. But like I say, you're gonna have to work. Like I say, some of it is self-explanatory. But like I say, you have to go back into that book. Sometimes you might have to go back to the older chapters in the book or whatnot to try to get it. But that's the assignment. Now, I'm not going to go over every program like this because, like I said, we're just getting started. Hopefully you get this. The next assignment, the next one's going to be, hey, you got to put some work in. All right? I'm just trying to move that over to the print, whatever. All right. So, but I didn't use the set W. All right. But like I said, after 100, 81, 75 average, 65 average. So everybody kind of see how the assignment is designed. But like I say,
hard.
Yeah, it's hard. I know it's hard, but you got, that's just the beginning. That's the start. Like I say, we're gonna be dealing with all kind of other things, our input files, we're gonna deal with flags and whatever. That's later on in the chapter. Semester. We're gonna deal with pointers. We're gonna deal with class structures, classes structures, things of that nature. So it can be a lot. Loop, not loop, but sorts, search algorithms, right? And all the programs you're dealing with data files. Most of them dealing with data files. Until we, when they get to that one chapter dealing with character data or whatever, but now then you're dealing with manipulating strings, which it can be tough because you're dealing with positions and whatever and stuff like that. Even though it's not as like this, but you're dealing with any one position off or whatever, the program is thrown off. Yeah, that's programming though. Yeah. Any questions?
Plenty, but I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah. Then you got to do that other program. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Oh.
Yeah. Then you got to do
say that word. I'm not gonna say that word withdraw yet.
I know, but hey, then you got to do my documentation.
What?
Yeah. For each program, yeah.
Why are you making this so hard? Why?
That's not hard. That's a class.
That's a lot. That's a lot of detailed information right here.
Correct, but it's preparing you. And like I say,
you take out so many points.
Yes, definitely.
You have just a little error in it. You take out so much.
Right. Let me ask you this question. I tell a person to add 5 and 5, right? Add 5 and 5 and then give me the output. Person add whatever, they run the program and they get 12. You think I should give them full credit for that?
No.
You think I should give them half credit for that?
Yes.
No. Because, listen, how you going to, logically, 5 and 5 is what? 10. You're going to turn in a program saying 5 and 5 is 12. You didn't even attempt to change it or figure out what is causing it to do whatever. Oh, I got it. I'm finished. You got what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's a lot, though.
Right, but that's programming. Halfway done is not done. Incorrectly done is not done. Right?
Yeah.
And how would I say it? I'm kind of lenient because some teachers. Listen, some teachers will say it's either right or it's wrong. If you don't have it the way I want it, hey, this is my output. I don't see that, wrong. Oh, I don't see that, wrong. I try, depending, to give some credit. But some teachers run my program. Oh, it didn't get wrong. Oh, it didn't, right. Because what they feel, you didn't even put in enough time to know what it is your program is to be doing. You just do something together and say, oh, give me a grade. So it's like 0.
Yeah, but some of the errors that that like when you were doing it, some of those errors, I mean, some people can find them and some people can't.
Right, but like I said, that when you do your little research, okay, let me show you him. This is one error that normally you probably likely gonna get. What I'm gonna do for this output, remember we added the array for average. Okay, I'm gonna take it off of this one and I'm gonna run it. And I'll say no. So look what happens. It say what? Function does not take 4 arguments. All right, double click. So look here, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, right? 4 different arguments. So I need to check the header file or I need to check this, and I need to check my definition. So let's go up here and check this. Put data. 1, 2, 3. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's not 4. But all the others. Let me go back to the other one. The call. It's got 1 name, 2, 3, 4. Let's go back here. I have put 1, 2, 3, 4. So the problem is what? Here, 1, 2, 3. So now I got to determine what and where to put it. I can't just put it anywhere. I got to know where. This is a string. This is a 2-dimensional int. This is an int. So let me look at this one. This is a string. This is a 2-dimensional int. Oh, this is a int, 1-dimensional. And this is just an int. So I need to go back up here and put in int array. All right? So that's how that works. Now, with my comma. Now, another thing you might do is this. You might do something like this where you leave off, say I leave off a string. Well, say I leave off int right here. I'll take this off. You know, I got my arguments. My argument list is straight, but I take that out. What is the problem? What's going on? I don't know why, where you run it. When you run the program, see here, I always say no here, but you run the program, and look, I got all kind of errors. It say more than one instance of overloaded function. Yeah. And you got what? Identify SCR is undefined. You see, so what it's saying is that it don't have a data type. You got what I'm saying? So you run into a whole lot of different errors. All right?
Yeah.
Yep, it's a lot of error. And you got to be able to understand these error messages. Go online, find them, look them up or whatever. See what they explain. Because see, this is something that. Oh yeah, it's taking me to the internet. See, so it's telling me what could be the problem. Now, it might not always take you to the right issue, but you know, it tries its best to give you, point you to the right direction and identify you, you know. So, but that, hey, it's gonna take some time. Hey, and like I say, the Java class is a little different. You pretty much hands on. Hey, this is the assignment. It's out there. You work on.
Yeah, I mean, what you're teaching us is just
one language. I mean,
it wasn't taught in the last class. We didn't have to do all the programs.
Right,
so
because everything in the last class supposed to be carried over to this class. You understand?
Meaning reading, it wasn't no programming.
Y'all not 193?
Yeah.
No. Y'all have to program.
We program very little, not a lot.
Oh, okay. Well, my classes normally we program a lot. This class, you might have 14, 15 programs. Woo. Two programs every assignment.
Well,
because
okay.
I try to
I'm
give
about
you.
to go ahead and withdraw.
I try to give you one way and then another way. I'll try to give you one, like I say, whatever we go over, do this and this for this with this and do the other one with whatever.
Why can't we just go through it together as a class?
Because you're not learning it. Because this is, how would I say, it's like how would I say it? It's like driving, all right? You could sit in the passenger seat and watch me drive all your life and then say, okay, go ahead on and drive. It's not the same. You know what I'm saying? You can watch it all your life, but then it's time for you to drive. You don't know how to hit the brakes. You don't know, you know what I'm saying? Shifting it in the gear, turning a curve too tight. It's the same thing. If you never apply and the thinking and whatever, it's not the same. And I'll tell you that even once you learn an application, like say me, I could learn something and say for now, there's a new application out. I could go to a class, not put my hand on the computer, not whatever, and watch. Oh yeah, that's done like that. Oh yeah, that's done like that. Okay, that's done like that. But then be given the opportunity to do it, it's like, man, what it is, how, because I've never actually done it. I watched it and I said, okay, yeah. And many students, I'm gonna tell you, many students in the class, they may not take notes. And what happens is, oh, okay, that's how that's done. Okay, that's easy. Oh, that's that. Okay, that's easy. Oh, that's that. That's easy. Then when they get the get into the compiler or get their paper and start writing the code, it's like, what did he say? I don't, you know, because it's so much, you know what I'm saying? And it's so detailed that you cannot almost guess it right. It got to be exactly right. All the commas, all the semicolons, all the double quotes, all the whatever, got to be precise. So it's like you gotta take notes, you gotta work on it in repetition. You know, it just takes time. You know, it just don't just pop up into your head. You know, it's just like a language, just like talking a language, same thing. But in talking a language, we human, and we can kind of decipher or guess or visualize what somebody may be saying. Computer don't do that. If it ain't what it's supposed to have, it's like, oh, I don't know what I don't understand it. You know, computer gonna just say, I don't understand it. You know? Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna try my best.
All right. Do my work. So like I said, you got a program, documentation. The other program, documentation.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
All right. Have a good one.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Oh.
All right.